Hey, sixth grade. Today we're moving on to lesson 2 in chapter 3, and our lesson today will be on estimating decimals. Okay, estimating is a super useful tool to be able to have in your math tool belt. It really lets you just get close, and a lot of times in like real life, that's all you need is an estimate. So this is um, a great tool to be able to use outside of class as well. We're going to start today with a little bit of vocabulary and talk about a few different ways in which we can estimate. So the first vocab word that we have is clustering. And what clustering is a method used to estimate a sum when all addends are close to the same value. Okay. So that would be like if you had three numbers that were all around like 50. So you had like 48, 52, and 49.5 or whatever. You could cluster all those together to say, well, they're all about 50. So I could add them all together to get 150, right? Something along those lines. And the other type of estimating we'll do is called front end estimation. And this is an estimation technique in which the front digits of the addends are added and then the sum is adjusted for a closer estimate. Okay, and I'll explain that type of estimation when we get a little bit closer to it, and I'll show you what it looks like in an example as well. Okay, basically there's just a few different ways to estimate, and we'll go through those today with our examples. Okay, so here is example 1, and with example 1, we are going to use the clustering method. Okay, it says Nancy wants to cycle, ice skate, and water ski for 30 minutes each. She's going to get some good exercise. About how many calories will she burn in all? Well, it tells us that cycling burns 165.5 calories, ice skating burns 177.5 calories, and water skiing burns 171.5 calories. You'll see we are going to want to use the cluster method because all of these three numbers are really close to 170. Okay, so you'll see that here. They estimate each and every one of these numbers to 170. Okay, so to estimate the total number of calories, round each addend to 170 and add them. Okay, well, 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 7 is 14, plus another 7 will be 21. Carry my 2. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so Nancy burns about 510 calories. Okay, really good estimation. We probably don't need to be more precise than that. We're pretty close, and whenever it says about, you can just be close. That's another way of saying it's okay to estimate. Okay, go ahead and turn the page then, and we'll look at example number 2. Example 2 says estimate by rounding to the indicated place value. All right, so for letter A, it says 7.13 plus 4.68. And the problem wants us to round to the indicated place value. Well, they tell us in the description here to round to the ones place. Okay, the ones place is the place that's right next to or to the left of the decimal. So we need to round to that place value. All right, well, to round to this place value, we look at the number behind. And if it's a 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, we would keep this the same. Or if it's 5 or greater, we would round it up. Okay, in this case, it's below 5, so we would keep this number the same. So 7.13 would round to 7. Okay, we're rounding it to the nearest ones place. Okay, for my second number, it's 5 or greater, so that tells me I need to round this up. So 4 rounded up 1 would be 5. Okay, I'm rounding to the nearest whole number is what I'm doing. Okay, and then I just have to take 7 plus 5, which would give me 12. Okay, so the sum is about 12. That's rounding to the ones. Okay, the next one I need to round to the tenths place. And the tenths place is the first spot after the decimal to the right. Okay, so round to the tenths. That's what the directions told me. And I'll look at the number behind. It's a 0, so I'll keep this the same. So this rounds 9.705 would round to 9.7. I don't worry about anything after this because I just want the tenths place. And the 2, okay, I'll look here. The first digit behind is a 6, so I'll round my 2 up to a 3. And then I don't worry about anything else. So this turns to 0.3. And now we need to just keep our decimals aligned. So align the decimals. That's our rules for adding and subtracting decimals. And then just subtract these two. So 7 minus 3 would give me 4. And 9 minus 0 would give me 9. And bring my decimal straight down. Okay, so we'll move on to example 3 next. All right, so in example 3, what we're going to try to do is use what we call compatible numbers. You see here, they talk about being compatible. And what they basically mean is try to find numbers that can be divided into each other or multiplied by each other or added to each other. And in the end, you get a nice whole number, okay? And maybe that'll make a little bit more sense as we see this problem. So for letter A, it says 33.83 times 1.98, okay? And what are two numbers that are close to these numbers that when we multiply them, we'll get a pretty close to a nice, neat whole number? Well, if we were to round 33.8 to 35, and if we were to round 1.98 to 2, 35 times 2 would give us a total of 70. And so 35 and 2 are compatible. They give us a pretty nice whole number here, a multiple of 10, 70. It's really easy to use when estimating. So 33.83 times 1.98 is about 70. Okay. Hopefully you'll see it here as well. It says 72.77 divided by 26.14. Well, 72.77 is really close to 75, and 26 is pretty close to 25. And when you divide these two numbers, they're compatible. You can think about quarters. A quarter is 25 cents. So how many quarters would equal 75 cents? Well, that would be 3. 75 divided by 25 would give us 3. 75 and 25 are definitely compatible. So 72.77 divided by 26.14 is about 3. Okay, if I were just to double check that and stick it in my calculator here, I would come up with a total of 72.77 divided by 26.14 gives me 2.8. So that is really close to the answer that I got when I used what are considered compatible numbers. Okay. All right, let's move on to example 4 on the next page. Kind of a long one, but hopefully it makes a little bit of sense to you here as we go through it. All right, here's where we're going to use that different type of estimation that we called front-end estimation. Okay, that means to only use the whole number part of the decimal. Okay, so we consider this, the whole number part, the front end. So it says estimate a range for the sum. Add the whole numbers only. So from 7.86, I'm just going to take the 7. Okay, for 36.97, I'm just going to take 36. The whole number values of the decimals are less than the actual numbers. So the answer is an underestimate. Okay, we talked about underestimates at the way beginning of the year because we're ignoring this. And so this number is actually smaller than the actual number. The estimated number is smaller than the actual number, so it's an underestimate. And again, we're going to round 5.40. We're just going to front end estimate, so we're just going to take the 5 there, and then we're going to add. So we have 7 plus 36 plus 5. Give us a total of 48. Okay. So the exact answer of this plus this plus this is 48 or greater because we took off all of this decimal section. We took that off on our front end estimation. Okay. Then it says you can you can estimate a range for the sum by adjusting the decimal part of the numbers. So now we're just going to look at the part that we ignored before, the decimals, and round them to, are they closer to 0? Are they closer to a half? Or are they closer to 1? To get a little bit closer of an estimate. All right, well, 0.86, is it closer to 0, half, or 1? 1. 0.97 is definitely closer to 1, and 0.40 is closer to a half. Okay, so we'll add the decimal part of the numbers. All right, so if we were to add these, 1 plus 1 is 2, plus a half is 2.5, or 2.5, or 2.50. Add the whole number estimate and the adjusted estimate. So in other words, we're going to take what we found in the first part where we just used our front end of our numbers, and then the second part where we estimated just the decimal portions and add those together. So 48 plus 2.5 will give me 50.5 or 50.50. Okay, so that would be an example of how to do a front end estimation and also find your range there. Okay, so just to finish this off, it says the adjusted decimals are greater than the actual decimal. So these ones we made greater. Okay, so 50.50, what we got when we added them together, is an over estimate. Okay, 48 was an underestimate. 50.50 was an overestimate. So the range there for the sum is 48 to 50.50. So the actual answer should be somewhere in between those numbers. All right, that's kind of how you do a front end estimation. All right, go ahead and flip to the back side and pause the video and try the 4 check it out problems here on the back. See how you do, and then we'll check them in just a minute here. All right, for number 1, it says Abner wants to run, roller skate, and snow ski for 60 minutes each. About how many calories will he burn in all? So we've got 185.5, 189.5, and 191.5. Okay. So first off, you're going to want to decide what are you going to round these numbers to? How, what place are you going to? Well, if you take a look back at example 1, we also were kind of doing the same thing and rounding them. In example 1, we clustered because they were all around 170. Here, I would say that they're all pretty close to 190. This is close to 190, this is close to 190, and this is close to 190. So if you took 190 and you multiplied it by 3 for the 3 different activities, using the clustering method, 190 times 3 would give you a total of 570 calories. So hopefully you came up with something close to that. Number 2, you need to estimate by rounding, and this one we're rounding to the ones place. Okay, so here is the ones place. I look back, and it's a 0, so it tells me to keep it the same. So that would be 6 plus, here's my ones place. I look back when it's a 7, that tells me to round my 3 up to a 4. So 6 plus 4 would give me 10. Okay, number 3, estimate the product or quotient. Okay, and I'm probably going to be looking for compatible numbers here. So what could I round 60 to and what could I round 18 to so that these 2 numbers would be compatible? Well, if you rounded 62.31 to 60, and if you rounded 18 to 20, 20 goes into 60 3 times. Okay, so 3 would be our estimation there for the quotient. And then lastly, we're looking for the range. All right, sorry I was cut off there, but we're going to do another front end estimation for our last problem. So first step is you take the whole numbers out in front. So that'd be 8 plus 47 plus 3. Okay, well, 47 plus 3 would give you 50, and then 50 plus 8 would be 58. So for our first number, we'd have 58, and then we'd say 2. Okay, and now we need to look at our back end numbers. So 0.92 would round to 1. 0.88 would also be closer to 1. And 0.4 would be close to a half. Okay, or 0.5. So 1 plus 1 is 2, plus a half is 2.5. So add that 2.5 to our 58 would give us 60 and a half, or 60.5 or 60.50. And that would be our range using front end estimation. So again, first, just take the whole numbers and then round the decimals to see if they're either closer to 0, a half, or 1. And then add those to your original number to find your range. Okay, hopefully this was a good review for you on estimating. Again, a very useful hint to be able to do in real life. So estimating decimals, there you have it. I will see you guys next time, and Good luck on the homework. Gillis out.